Most people think building a serious survival pantry requires thousands of dollars and a warehouse-sized storage room, but that belief keeps them dangerously unprepared when crisis strikes. The truth is, you can build a legitimate 6-month food supply on a budget so tight it would make your grandmother proud. And if you stay with me through this entire video, you'll discover exactly how to do it without sacrificing nutrition, variety, or your family's safety. Before we dive into the strategies that could save your life, hit that subscribe button right now, because this channel exists to arm you with survival knowledge that mainstream sources won't dare to share. And every video we release could be the difference between thriving and starving when society stops functioning. The first mistake people make when building a pantry is shopping like they're preparing for a weekend camping trip instead of a genuine long-term emergency. Walk into any grocery store right now, and you'll see people loading their carts with expensive freeze-dried meals, specialty survival foods, and overpriced emergency kits that drain bank accounts while providing maybe 2 weeks of actual sustenance. The reality that preppers who've survived real disasters understand is this: the most cost-effective survival pantry is built around bulk staples that civilizations have relied on for thousands of years. Rice, beans, wheat, oats, salt, sugar, and cooking oil form the foundation of a pantry that can keep you alive for months at a fraction of the cost of marketed survival products. A 25-pound bag of white rice costs approximately $15 to $20 at most warehouse stores and provides roughly 120 servings, which breaks down to roughly 12 to 17 cents per serving. Compare that to freeze-dried meals that cost $8 to $12 per pouch and provide 2 servings at best, and you'll immediately understand why bulk staples are the backbone of intelligent food storage. Dried beans represent perhaps the most undervalued survival food in existence, delivering complete protein when combined with rice, massive quantities for minimal investment, and shelf life that extends multiple years when stored properly. You can purchase pinto beans, black beans, kidney beans, and lentils in 10 to 20-pound bags for $10 to $25, giving you approximately 100 to 200 servings depending on the variety. The protein density in beans rivals expensive meat products. The preparation requires only water and heat, and the versatility allows you to create dozens of different meals from the same base ingredient. People who dismiss beans as boring or unappetizing have never faced real hunger, and those same people will be the ones begging at your door when grocery stores go empty and supply chains collapse. Wheat berries and whole grains offer another critical component that most budget-conscious preppers overlook, because they assume grinding wheat requires expensive equipment. A hand-crank grain mill costs between $50 and $150 as a one-time investment, but that single purchase unlocks the ability to store wheat berries that remain viable for 20 to 30 years and grind them into fresh flour whenever you need it. 50 pounds of wheat berries costs approximately $20 to $30 and produces enough flour for roughly 60 to 70 loaves of bread, while 50 pounds of store-bought flour costs more, goes rancid within months, and loses nutritional value constantly during storage. The second critical principle for building a shoestring budget pantry involves shopping strategically instead of desperately, which means you never walk into a store without a calculator, a price per ounce mindset, and absolute clarity about what actually constitutes a good deal. Warehouse clubs like Costco, Sam's Club, and BJ's offer bulk pricing that can cut your per unit costs by 30 to 60% compared to traditional grocery stores, but only if you're purchasing the right items and avoiding the psychological traps these stores deliberately create. The mistake most people make is assuming everything in a warehouse store is cheaper by default, when in reality, many products are simply repackaged in larger quantities at proportionally higher prices. You need to calculate the price per pound, price per ounce, or price per serving for every single item you consider purchasing. And you need to compare those numbers against sales at traditional grocery stores, discount retailers like Aldi, and ethnic markets that often carry bulk staples at prices that undercut everyone else. Ethnic grocery stores, particularly Asian, Hispanic, and Middle Eastern markets, consistently offer rice, beans, spices, and dried goods at prices that embarrass mainstream retailers. A 50-pound bag of jasmine rice at an Asian market might cost $25, while the same quantity at a regular grocery store could run $45 to $60. Mexican grocery stores sell dried beans, masa harina, and bulk spices at prices so low that you'll wonder why you ever shopped anywhere else. Dollar stores represent another resource that sophisticated preppers use strategically, particularly for canned goods, salt, sugar, spices, and condiments that don't require premium quality to serve their purpose. Every dollar store carries canned vegetables, canned beans, tomato sauce, pasta, and basic baking supplies at $1 per item, which often beats the per-unit price of larger packages elsewhere. The key is understanding what to buy at dollar stores and what to avoid, because not everything represents genuine value. Canned goods, dried pasta, rice in smaller quantities, salt, sugar, flour, baking soda, vinegar, and condiments are generally solid purchases at dollar stores. Avoid their meat products, dairy items, fresh produce, and anything where quality directly impacts nutrition or safety. Sales and clearance sections at traditional grocery stores offer another opportunity that most people walk right past because they're not trained to hunt for reduced price items. Grocery stores mark down items approaching their sell-by dates, discontinued products, dented cans, and seasonal items they need to clear from shelves. These products are typically 30 to 70% off regular prices, and contrary to popular belief, sell-by dates are not expiration dates. Most canned goods, dried goods, and packaged foods remain perfectly safe and nutritious for months or even years past their printed dates when stored properly. The third essential element involves understanding food preservation beyond simple storage, because a true 6-month pantry requires more than just buying food and stacking it in a closet. Food preservation extends your budget by allowing you to purchase items when they're cheapest and preserve them for long-term storage, and it also enables you to rescue food that might otherwise go to waste. Canning is the most powerful preservation method available to budget-conscious preppers because it allows you to purchase fresh produce at peak season when prices drop dramatically, process it at home, and store it for years in mason jars that cost pennies per use. A basic water bath canning setup costs $30 to $50 and includes a large pot, jar lifter, funnel, and bubble remover. Pressure canners cost more, typically $70 to $200 depending on size, but they enable you to can low-acid foods like meats, beans, and vegetables that require higher temperatures for safety. During late summer and early fall, farmers markets and produce stands sell tomatoes, corn, green beans, peaches, and berries at prices that drop to 1/3 of peak season costs because farmers need to move inventory before it spoils. You can purchase 50 pounds of tomatoes for $15 to $25 and can them into sauce, salsa, and diced tomatoes that would cost $70 to $100 if purchased in store-bought jars. Dehydrating food offers another budget-friendly preservation method that requires minimal equipment and produces lightweight, shelf-stable foods that retain most of their nutritional value. Electric dehydrators range from $30 for basic models to $300 for commercial-grade units. But you can also dehydrate food in a conventional oven set to its lowest temperature, which costs nothing beyond your normal energy bill. Dehydrating works exceptionally well for fruits, vegetables, herbs, and even cooked meats. And the finished products store in mason jars, vacuum-sealed bags, or even simple Ziploc bags in cool, dark locations. When bananas go on clearance for 29 cents per pound because they're developing brown spots, you can buy 20 pounds, slice them, dehydrate them, and create banana chips that would cost $40 to $60 at health food stores. Apples, berries, tomatoes, peppers, onions, mushrooms, and leafy greens all dehydrate beautifully and rehydrate in soups, stews, and casseroles without any loss of utility. Vacuum sealing extends the shelf life of virtually everything in your pantry by removing oxygen that causes spoilage, rancidity, and insect infestation. A vacuum sealer costs $40 to $100 initially, but the investment pays for itself within months when you consider how much food you'll save from spoilage. Vacuum-sealed rice and beans can last 20 to 30 years, instead of the typical 5 to 10 years with conventional storage. Vacuum-sealed dried goods resist moisture and pests that would otherwise destroy them. And vacuum-sealed dehydrated foods maintain their quality far longer than foods stored in regular containers. The fourth principle that separates successful budget preppers from those who fail involves meal planning and rotation systems that ensure nothing goes to waste and your family actually eats what you've stored. The most expensive mistake in food storage is purchasing items your family won't eat, because those items represent wasted money, wasted space, and wasted security. Before you spend a single dollar on pantry supplies, you need to identify 20 to 30 meals your family regularly enjoys that can be prepared entirely from shelf-stable ingredients. Chili, soup, pasta dishes, rice and beans, oatmeal, stir-fry, casseroles, stews, and baked goods all work perfectly for pantry-based meal planning. Write down the exact ingredients needed for each meal. Calculate how much of each ingredient you'd Need to make that meal once per week for 6 months, and that list becomes your shopping blueprint. A family of 4 eating chili once per week for 6 months needs approximately 52 pounds of dried beans, 26 large cans of tomatoes, 13 pounds of onions, either fresh or dehydrated, and appropriate quantities of chili powder, cumin, garlic, and salt. Breaking your pantry into specific meals instead of random ingredients ensures you're building a functional food system instead of a disconnected collection of stuff. Rotation is equally critical because food storage isn't about filling shelves once and forgetting about it for 6 months. First in, first out rotation means you're constantly using the oldest items in your pantry and replacing them with fresh purchases, which keeps everything within its optimal freshness window and prevents the financial devastation of discovering 50 pounds of rancid flour or insect-infested rice. Set up your storage area so new purchases go to the back and older items move to the front, where they'll be grabbed first. Date every package with a permanent marker the moment you bring it home, including the purchase date and the expiration date if one exists. Commit to using your pantry supplies regularly, instead of treating them as some sacred emergency-only stash that sits untouched until disaster strikes. If you're eating from your pantry weekly, you'll immediately discover what your family likes, what they won't eat, and what needs adjustment before you've invested hundreds of dollars in the wrong items. The fifth element involves creative sourcing that goes beyond traditional retail, because the best survival deals exist in places most people never think to look. Food banks and community assistance programs often have partnerships with commercial, bakeries, grocery stores, and food distributors that provide surplus items to people in need. If you're in genuine financial hardship, there's zero shame in accessing these resources while you build your stability, and many programs specifically include pantry staples like canned goods, rice, pasta, and bread. Bakery thrift stores sell bread, buns, tortillas, and baked goods at 50 to 75% off regular prices because the items are 1 to 3 days old, which is meaningless when you're going to freeze them immediately or use them within the week. Day-old bread freezes perfectly and lasts for months, giving you an inexpensive source of carbohydrates that would otherwise strain your budget. Food co-ops and buying clubs allow members to pool their purchasing power and buy directly from distributors at wholesale prices, typically requiring a small membership fee or volunteer hours in exchange for access. The savings through co-ops can reach 30 to 50% on organic foods, bulk grains, nuts, dried fruits, and specialty items that would be prohibitively expensive at retail. Foraging and gardening represent zero-cost food sources that require knowledge, effort, and time instead of money. Even in urban environments, edible plants grow wild in parks, along trails, and in neglected spaces, including dandelion greens, plantain, wild onions, purslane, and amaranth. Learning to identify 10 to 15 edible wild plants in your region costs nothing but study time and gives you a supplemental food source that remains available even when money runs out. A small container garden on an apartment balcony can produce tomatoes, peppers, lettuce, herbs, and beans throughout the growing season, while a suburban backyard garden can generate hundreds of pounds of produce that either gets eaten fresh or preserved for winter. Seeds cost $2 to $4 per packet, and many vegetables produce seeds you can save for next year's planting at zero additional cost. Chickens are another consideration for anyone with a small yard, because 3 to 4 hens will produce 12 to 20 eggs per week while consuming kitchen scraps, weeds, and inexpensive feed that costs $10 to $15 per 50-pound bag. Those eggs provide high-quality protein that would otherwise cost $4 to $6 per dozen at the store, and chickens continue producing for years with minimal care. The sixth critical factor involves understanding proper storage conditions, because even the best deals become expensive mistakes when food spoils due to poor storage. The 3 enemies of food storage are heat, light, and moisture, and controlling these factors determines whether your pantry lasts 6 months or 6 years. Temperature control is paramount because chemical reactions that cause food degradation accelerate dramatically as temperatures rise. Ideal storage temperature ranges from 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, with cooler being better across the board. Every 10-degree increase in temperature cuts food storage life roughly in half, which means rice stored at 85 degrees might last 5 years, while the same rice stored at 65 degrees could last 15 to 20 years. Basements, interior closets, and climate-controlled spaces work well for food storage, while garages, attics, and areas near heating sources are terrible choices. Light exposure causes nutrient loss, rancidity in fats and oils, and degradation of vitamins, particularly in clear or translucent containers. Store food in opaque containers, cover shelving with dark fabric, or locate your pantry in windowless spaces where light exposure is minimal. Moisture control prevents mold, bacterial growth, and the clumping or caking that ruins dried goods. Relative humidity should stay below 50% for optimal storage, which might require dehumidifiers in damp climates or moisture-absorbing desiccant packets in storage containers. Food-grade buckets with Gamma Seal lids offer excellent protection for bulk staples like rice, beans, flour, and sugar, with 5-gallon buckets costing $4 to $8 each, and Gamma lids adding another $7 to $10 per bucket. That $18 investment protects 50 pounds of rice worth $20, prevents spoilage, blocks pests, and allows easy access without removing a sealed lid every time you need supplies. Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers provide another storage option that creates an oxygen-free environment inside food-safe packaging, extending shelf life to its maximum potential. Gallon-sized Mylar bags cost 20 to 40 cents each. Oxygen absorbers cost 5 to 10 cents each, and an impulse sealer for closing the bags costs $20 to $40. Store your sealed Mylar bags inside buckets or plastic bins for rodent protection, and you've created storage that rivals commercial emergency food products at a tiny fraction of the cost. The seventh principle involves maximizing nutrition within your budget constraints, because survival isn't just about calories. It's about maintaining health through balanced nutrition that prevents deficiency diseases. Scurvy, beriberi, pellagra, and other nutritional deficiency diseases killed countless people throughout history who had access to food but lacked nutritional variety. Your 6-month pantry must include protein sources, carbohydrate sources, fat sources, and vitamin and mineral sources across multiple food categories. Protein comes from dried beans, lentils, canned meats, peanut butter, powdered milk, eggs. If you have chickens, and canned fish like tuna, salmon, and sardines. Canned sardines are criminally underrated, offering omega-3 fatty acids, calcium from the edible bones, protein, and vitamin D at prices typically between $1 and $2 per can. Carbohydrates come from rice, pasta, oats, wheat, flour, cornmeal, potatoes either fresh or dehydrated, and sugar for calories and morale. Fats are essential for hormone production, vitamin absorption, and calorie density, coming from cooking oils, peanut butter, nuts, seeds, and canned coconut milk. Vitamins and minerals come from canned and dehydrated vegetables, canned fruits, dried fruits, vitamin supplements, and fermented foods like sauerkraut that you can make at home. Multivitamin supplements provide insurance against nutritional gaps, and a bottle of 300 tablets costs $10 to $20, breaking down to roughly 3 to 7 cents per day. That small investment could prevent serious health issues during extended emergencies when fresh produce isn't available. Salt isn't just a seasoning, it's an essential mineral that your body requires for nerve function, muscle contraction, and fluid balance. Stock both regular iodized salt for nutritional needs and canning salt for food preservation, with both costing less than $2 for a 5-pound bag. Spices and seasonings transform monotonous staples into meals worth eating, preventing flavor fatigue that causes people to stop eating stored food even when they're hungry. Garlic powder, onion powder, chili powder, cumin, oregano, basil, black pepper, cinnamon, and bouillon cubes cost $1 to $5 each and make the difference between choking down bland rice and actually enjoying your meals. The eighth factor that budget preppers must master is scaling your purchasing to match your actual financial situation instead of trying to build everything at once. If you have $200 right now to invest in food storage, you can create a solid foundation by purchasing 50 pounds of white rice for $15, 50 pounds of pinto beans for $20, 25 pounds of all-purpose flour for $12, 10 pounds of sugar for $6, 5 pounds of salt for $3, 2 gallons of cooking oil for $15, large containers of peanut butter for $12, 30 cans of mixed vegetables on sale for $30, 20 cans of tomato products for $15, 10 cans of tuna for $12, a variety of dried pasta for $15, and spend the remaining $35 on spices, bouillon, oats, cornmeal, and any sale items you find. That single shopping trip gives you the core components for dozens of meals and represents a genuine start toward food security. If you only have $50 monthly to dedicate to food storage, commit to spending it consistently every single month for 6 months instead of waiting until you can afford to buy everything at once. Month 1 focuses on rice and beans. Month 2 adds flour and oil. Month 3 brings in canned goods. Month 4 incorporates pasta and tomato products. Month 5 adds protein sources. And month 6 rounds out with spices, baking supplies, and extras. The compounding effect of consistent small purchases beats sporadic large purchases every time. Because you're spreading your risk, catching different items on sale throughout the year, and building momentum that reinforces the habit. Set specific dates each month for pantry shopping so it becomes a non-negotiable commitment. Treat your food storage fund like any other essential bill, and resist the temptation to raid it for non-emergency purposes. People who successfully build 6-month pantries on shoestring budgets share one common characteristic. They decide that food security is non-negotiable, and they sacrifice other discretionary spending to make it happen. That might mean eating out less, canceling subscription services, skipping entertainment expenses, buying cheaper brands in other categories, or finding ways to generate extra income specifically dedicated to food storage. The discomfort of small sacrifices today is infinitely preferable to the terror of empty cupboards when crisis strikes, and that perspective shift separates those who survive from those who become desperate. The 9th element involves learning skills that multiply your resources without increasing your spending, because knowledge and capability are forms of wealth that nobody can take from you. Baking bread from scratch costs approximately 50 cents per loaf using bulk flour, compared to $3 to $5 for decent bread at the store. Learning to bake eliminates a major grocery expense while giving you a valuable skill that works with stored wheat. Making yogurt at home costs roughly $1 per quart using powdered milk and a yogurt starter culture, compared to $4 to $6 for store-bought yogurt. The yogurt making process is absurdly simple, requiring only warm milk, a tablespoon of existing yogurt or starter culture, and 8 to 12 hours of warmth. Sprouting dried beans and seeds transforms them into fresh vegetables packed with vitamins, minerals, and enzymes, using nothing but water, a mason jar, and 3 to 5 days of time. A pound of sprouting seeds costs $5 to $10 and produces multiple pounds of fresh sprouts that would cost $20 to $40 at grocery stores. Fermentation skills allow you to create sauerkraut, pickles, kimchi, and other probiotic-rich foods using only vegetables, salt, water, and thyme, with no canning equipment required. A 5-pound cabbage costs $2 to $3 and makes approximately 1 gallon of sauerkraut that would cost $10 to $15 in stores. Cooking from scratch instead of relying on convenience foods cuts your food costs by 50 to 70%, while giving you complete control over ingredients, nutrition, and flavoring. A box of instant rice costs $4 and provides 6 servings, while a pound of bulk rice costs $1 and provides 11 servings of equal quality. Pre-made pasta sauce costs $3 to $5 per jar, while making sauce from canned tomatoes, garlic, onion, and herbs costs $1 and tastes better. Mastering 10 to 15 basic cooking techniques. Soups, stews, breads, beans, rice dishes, pasta dishes, casseroles, stir-fries, and baked goods means you can create hundreds of meals from the same basic pantry ingredients by varying seasonings and combinations. The families that thrive during food insecurity aren't necessarily the ones with the most money. They're the ones with the knowledge to transform simple ingredients into nourishing meals. The 10th and final principle is maintaining the mental discipline and long-term perspective required to complete this project. Because building a 6-month pantry on a shoestring budget isn't a weekend project. It's a months-long commitment that tests your patience and resolve. Most people start strong, make an initial purchase, feel good about their progress, and then gradually lose momentum as other priorities and temptations erode their commitment. You will face moments where spending $50 on food storage feels less attractive than spending $50 on immediate gratification, and how you handle those moments determines whether you succeed or fail. Create accountability by telling family members or trusted friends about your goal, tracking your progress visibly with lists or spreadsheets, and setting milestone celebrations when you reach 25%, 50%, and 75% completion. The psychological boost from visible progress cannot be overstated, because seeing shelves fill up reinforces the behavior and makes the sacrifice feel worthwhile. Document your journey with photos, keeping a journal, or tracking your spending, because this record serves as proof of what you've accomplished and motivation during difficult moments. When you're tempted to quit or skip a month, reviewing how far you've come often provides the push needed to continue. Connect with other preppers online or in your community, because surrounding yourself with people who share your values and priorities makes the journey easier and provides support when you're struggling. Online forums, social media groups, and local preparedness meetups offer advice, encouragement, deal alerts, and the reminder that you're not alone in this pursuit. Remember that every single item you add to your pantry is one more meal your family won't go without during emergency. One less moment of panic when supply chains break, and one more piece of security in an increasingly unstable world. The people who laugh at preppers, who mock food storage, who insist that everything will always be fine, are the same people who panic buy when disasters approach and then complain that stores are empty. You're choosing a different path, the path of responsibility, foresight, and self-reliance, and that choice will prove its value when the UMP repaired are left desperate. The investment you're making isn't just financial, it's an investment in peace of mind, knowing that regardless of what happens in the economy, the supply chain, or the world around you, your family has food security for 6 months. That confidence changes how you move through the world, reducing stress, improving decision-making, and giving you the foundation to help others when they're in need. Building a 6-month pantry on a shoestring budget is entirely possible, entirely practical, and entirely within your reach if you commit to the principles we've covered. Bulk staples over expensive marketed products, strategic shopping that prioritizes value over convenience, preservation methods that extend both shelf life and your budget, meal planning and rotation that prevent waste, creative sourcing from unconventional places, proper storage that protects your investment, nutritional balance that maintains health, scaled purchasing that matches your financial reality, skills development that multiplies your resources, and mental discipline that carries you through to completion. Every person watching this video has the capability to achieve food security regardless of their current financial situation. Because this isn't about having money, it's about having priorities, knowledge, and commitment. The question isn't whether you can afford to build a 6-month pantry. The question is whether you can afford not to, because the cost of being unprepared when crisis strikes is infinitely higher than the cost of preparation. Start today with whatever you have, even if it's just $10, because that first purchase begins the momentum that builds into security. Next week, add more. Next month, add more. 6 months from now, you'll have accomplished what most people never attempt, and you'll have the security that comes with knowing your family won't go hungry when the world goes dark. And if you want to go deeper into specific storage techniques, detailed meal planning worksheets, and comprehensive shopping lists broken down by budget level, you'll find in the pinned comment some guides and documents that can take your preparedness to the next level. Check them out when you're ready. If this video gave you the knowledge and confidence to finally start building real food security, don't just watch and disappear. Hit that like button right now, because it tells us you're serious about survival, and it pushes this critical information to other people who desperately need it. Drop a comment below telling us what your biggest challenge is with food storage, whether it's budget, space, family buy-in, or something else entirely, because your question might be exactly what someone else needs answered. Share this video with family members, friends, or anyone in your circle who talks about being worried about the future but hasn't taken action yet. Because the time to prepare isn't when disaster is announced on the news. It's right now while stores are still stocked and prices haven't skyrocketed. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the survival knowledge we release every single week. Because each video is designed to give you practical, actionable, life-saving information that you won't find anywhere else. The world is becoming more unstable, supply chains are more fragile than ever, and the gap between those who prepare and those who don't is about to become brutally obvious. Choose which side you're on and take action today.